On this 21st day of September 2015, the teachers' unions are telling the president he was misled when he addressed the nation yesterday evening regarding the teachers' pay saga. Also tonight, war of words now unfolding between Moses Kuria, Professor Anyang' Nyong'o and Martha Karua as to just who fixed the Deputy President William Ruto at The Hague. Everyone saying, bring it on, the war is about to begin. Also tonight, our team is based in Tanzania, following closely the campaigns in that election that some are saying is the big one to watch. Ben Kitili, Francis Ontomwa and our KTN News team based in Tanzania to get you the whole story of what is going on in Tanzania. What are the issues on the ground? What are the campaigners saying? What is John Magufuli saying? What is Edward Lowassa saying? And what do the citizens expect out of that election that's coming up in the next few weeks or so? This is KTN Prime. I'm Yvonne Okwara. Matole, let's take a look at the highlights.
Somebody is designing a script to mislead the public and to put the public in a collision course with the teachers of this country.
You cannot just take Kenya and start comparing it to Burundi.
Teachers dig in for what promises to be an extended fight for their pay rise.
Wote mishahara yao ipunguzwe.
And Member of Parliament Babu Namwamba proposes to cut senior public officials' salaries by 50%.
Stop hiding behind people. Come out. Say it yourself so that I can take you on.
She says you want to take me to court on Wednesday. Wednesday I'm engaged elsewhere. I'm asking her to go tomorrow.
Also coming up, MP Moses Kuria tasked to reveal details of the alleged ICC plot. Picking up the pieces from the Westgate tragedy.
We thank you very much for tuning in to KTN Prime. Tonight, our sign language interpreter is William Silla. Our top story tonight, the teachers' unions are questioning the numbers in President Uhuru Kenyatta's statement yesterday. Officials of the Kenya National Union of Teachers and the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers claim it was a misrepresentation of the teachers' crisis. And as Sharon Mamanyi reports, the teachers maintain that they are not about to end their strike anytime soon.
Pay this award.
The much anticipated speech by President Uhuru Kenyatta Sunday was expected by many to give a final solution on the teachers' strike, but the speech itself seems to have added insult to injury.
The lowest paid teacher in Kenya earns 7 times as much as his counterpart in Burundi.
This is the payslip, and the payslip indicates basic salary 16,692. Where did they get a figure of 23,000 to cheat Kenyans?
The executive opinion is not superior to a court order.
Nat and Kupet have rubbished Kenyatta's statements on the implementation of the 1997 agreement, with the president Sunday stating that the agreement has been fully fulfilled. The unions have also condemned the comparison of their pay with countries in the region.
Is it possible for us, for anybody to compare a mango and a coconut?
No. Then we also saw branding being used, where the president would compare Kenya to Rwanda or Burundi. It is like taking a good family there, you put there a tuzo milk and claim that if you take tuzo, then your family shall be happy. That is what we call branding. You cannot just take Kenya and start comparing it to Burundi.
Even with a clear statement by the president that there is no money, no more money for teachers, they will not go back to school, they say.
We will never leave this 50-60. Sure. Yes. It is our own document we have accepted, and the court has given to us, and we are not about to leave it.
There is no teacher who will be supervising these exams, and therefore an exam which we have not supervised, we cannot mark. That exam is called unreliable.
A section of CORD leaders have also dismissed the president's statement on the teachers' strike as sheer PR.
what I saw yesterday was the president was trying to shift public sympathy, to himself away from the teacher's cause. What parents were waiting for is to hear, can our children go back to school or not? PR can solve problems sometimes, but this is one of those problems that cannot be solved with press conferences, State of Nation addresses, or PR.
Really, how can you tell us there is no money to sustain our teachers when you are building a manual standard gauge railway at 400 billion at the end of the 21st century? We are joking, we are playing. If indeed there is no money in this government, we want the Treasury Cabinet Secretary to come out and tell the people of Kenya that the country is bankrupt.
On the other hand, the High Court on Monday upheld an application by the Kenya Private Schools Association allowing private schools to continue with studies. Justice Mumbi Ngugi suspended the circular issued by the Ministry of Education ordering closure of all schools in the country. She stated in her ruling that private schools were not part of the teachers' strike. With both the government and the teachers remaining adamant on their stance, the end of the teachers' strike appears to be distant. The fate of the school term and the end-year exams remain to be determined. Sharon Momanyi, KTN News, Nairobi.
Budalangi Member of Parliament Babu Namwamba has filed a motion at the National Assembly seeking to have state officers earning colossal salaries to take a 50% pay cut. Namwamba argues that his proposal would reduce the ballooning wage bill significantly and would subsequently aid in paying teachers their long fought for pay increase.
Monday morning in Namwamba's agenda at the National Assembly was clear. He made public his next big project that would see key state officers take home just half of what they earn. Namwamba was not shy to indicate the officers that his motion would target, from the president to his deputy, MPs, senators, speakers, judges, constitutional commissioners, cabinet secretaries, principal secretaries, governors, and county government officials, including MCAs. He argued that this would be one of the effective ways to tame the skyrocketing wage bill that, according to the president, was a key inhibitor in increasing teachers' pay.
It is our considered view that the stalemate currently obtaining that has forced the closure of schools and sent millions of Kenyan children back home is one that must be resolved and resolved urgently. And that as leaders in this country, we must be prepared to make sacrifices, but above all, we must be prepared to offer leadership, ultimately to see an end to this stalemate so that teachers can go back to class and our children can return to school.
The bill also calls for the downward review of representation units that include constituencies, counties, and wards in order to reduce the number of legislators.
Believing that the ultimate solution to these twin challenges rests in restructuring, harmonizing, and balancing the public wage structure to bridge the noted disparities, attain more sustainable thresholds, and afford dignified livelihoods for teachers, medical personnel, uniformed officers, and all other public service cadres. Acknowledging that the hyperinflammation of the public wage bill started right here in Parliament, and further that the August House bears responsibility to offer leadership in seeking the ultimate solution to this challenge that is of grave national importance.
The motion also proposes that all sitting allowances paid to the public officers be abolished, while all their mileage claims and travel allowances are reviewed downwards by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. The motion will be debated on the floor of the House when the legislators resume from a month-long recess. Betty Kyalo, KTN News.
And that story forms the basis of our big question tonight on KTN Prime. We're asking you, should the president take a pay cut in order to aid the teachers' pay hike? Should the president take a pay cut in aid of the teachers' pay hike? 22155 is how you can reach us on SMS. That number is absolutely free. You can also get us at KTN News, at Yvonne Okwara, and the views are coming in even before we announce the question. At Bairimo 2, you say the president, vice president, and the whole parliament shouldn't be paid. There should be voluntary positions. Don't know about that. Some interesting views. Keep them coming in and we'll sample them throughout this bulletin. Okay, so we want to move on from the war of words between teachers, their employer, and the executive to another war of words over the ICC. Now Kenya leader Martha Karua has now given Moses Kuria 24 hours to recant, apologize, and publicly denounce his remarks, linking her to the procurement of witnesses against Deputy President William Ruto at the International Criminal Court, or face legal action. But Moses Kuria immediately told Karua to make it quick and take him to court tomorrow. And as Rita Tinina reports, the witness procurement claims have opened up a new battlefront, with Karua turning the heat on Deputy President William Ruto.
The Sunday Kapsokwan prayer rally for Deputy President William Ruto and Joshua Sang, who are facing crimes against humanity charges at the International Criminal Court, was the stage for an open admission and a witness procurement claim.
Wakati tulikuwa tunapeleka mamlaka yetu huko, Martha Karua ndiye alikuwa kiongozi wetu kupeleka huko.
These are wild, unfounded allegations.
Martha Karua, whom Moses Kuria claims led the team that sourced for false witnesses against Ruto, says Kuria is not his own man.
If you hear a dog barking, look for its owner. So here, I'm looking for the owner.
In that search, the former Justice Minister is looking in one direction.
William Ruto, the Deputy President, if he has such information, credible evidence, and he believes it, to go to the DPP's office or to any police station and record a statement, else to leave my name alone. And to be bold enough to come out so that I deal with him, not to send emissaries.
Karua says she has nothing to do with Ruto's tribulations at The Hague.
I've never been a prosecutor or investigator, nor have I ever worked for the Hague Court. My duties as Minister of Justice did not include any investigation or search for witnesses.
Karua says Ruto's defense team has been mentioning her name in connection with witnesses at The Hague. Now, Karua is daring Ruto to make such claims personally out of court.
Let him say it out here publicly so that I can take him on, and not under the privileged circumstances of his court through the lawyers and through the mouths of hirings.
A warning she repeated during her press conference, which lasted for less than 20 minutes, not once.
Stop making allegations against me, hiding under the cover of the court at Hague. Come out here and mention it, and I'll take you on.
Not twice.
Stop hiding behind people. Come out. Say it yourself so that I can take you on. I can sue you.
Not thrice.
Be bold enough. Come out. Stop sending emissaries.
But 4 times. And she had another warning.
In this particular Hague case, there have been threats to witnesses and harm has occurred to many. I am telling you, William Ruto, the Deputy President, should anything untoward occur to me, I'll be calling at your door.
Karua says Kuria should be held responsible over his own admission of witness procurement. Raila Odinga, who was also mentioned by Karua in connection with witness procurement, also wants the Director of Public Prosecutions to order Kuria's prosecution over obstruction of justice, perjury, and fabricating evidence. Raila, in a statement, termed Kuria's allegations as illegal and malicious and the most despicable form of Machiavellian warfare by a political fellowship of people against a single man. Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, who was also mentioned by Kuria, has asked Kuria to give Kenyans more evidence regarding his meeting with him and Raila. But Martha Karua is taking it a little further. Through her lawyer Gitobu Imanyara, Karua has given Kuria 24 hours to recant, apologize, and publicly denounce his remarks.
If he doesn't take it from me that on Wednesday morning, proceedings will be instituted against him at the High Court of Kenya.
He says you want to take me to court on Wednesday. Wednesday I'm engaged elsewhere. I'm asking her to go tomorrow. Twende kesho.
With 2 cases in court, one over defamation and another over incitement to violence, it is not the first time that his utterances are landing him in trouble. But this time round, Moses Kuria may have picked on the wrong target. And Martha Karua, once described as the Iron Lady, is promising to take her battle to the very end. Rita Tinina, KTN News.
Right, so we want to remind you now of our big question tonight, and it's all about Ababu Namwamba's motion for a pay cut, and of course also reducing the size of the National Assembly, the number of constitutional commissions and their membership as well. We're asking you if the president should take a pay cut in aid of the teachers' pay hike. Now, at this point, it would be good to remind you that he actually did take a 20% pay cut, and we understand the money from that is going into an account of the Central Bank of Kenya. What are your thoughts on that? 22155. Also at KTN News. Remember to use the hashtag KTN Prime so we can track your feedback. At Oma15 says, a good initiative by Ababu Namwamba, but will he beat the tyranny of numbers? All right, so more of those coming in. There's quite a number, actually. Let me find another one. Joseph Maura at Maura1, you say, hell no. If he does, it will draw an axis of salary crisis to public servants. Felix Andove, you say, yes, president and legislators should take pay cuts plus their allowances reduced to meet the teachers' pay hike. And then, more and more of that coming in. Thomas Odol says, nice speeches being made by our leaders will not help this nation at all, but some intervention from God himself. Okay, keep your thoughts coming in on that. We also want to remind you of something you need to want to diarize at 10 o'clock right after KTN Prime. John Alanamu will be here as we continue with our focus on Westgate. Moving on 2 years later, remember, on this very day 2 years ago, the Westgate Mall came under siege for 4 days. We lost 67 people in that attack. He will be focusing on reporting and on journalists, and we'll have international journalists as well as lecturers in that field to just delve into that matter a little further. So you want to make a point of that right after this bulletin. You're watching KTN Prime. We're taking a short commercial break now. We'll be back with more news.
Campaigns in Tanzania heat up ahead of the October polls.
Thank you for staying with us on KTN Prime right here on KTN News, your 24-hour East Africa news channel. And we want to take you to Tanzania. The National Election Commission has called for investigations into claims that some political parties are training militia groups ahead of the country's elections on October the 25th. KTN's political editor Ben Kitili now gives us an insight into the campaigns for what has been said to be Tanzania's most competitive elections.
Indeed, it is a full general election political campaign mood here in Tanzania's commercial capital, that is Dar es Salaam. And as we have been reporting, it is a two-horse race for the presidency for the October 25th presidential election between Chama cha Mapinduzi, CCM's John Joseph Pombe Magufuli, who has been a member of parliament for 20 years and has been a cabinet minister, and former Prime Minister Edward Lowassa, who is running for the presidency on an Ukawa, the opposition coalition ticket. His political party is the Chama cha Demokrasia na Maendeleo, Chadema party, which has come together with other key opposition parties to form that Ukawa coalition to try and challenge CCM, try to kick out the Independence Party from power for the first time. CCM has been in power since 1964 when Tanzania gained independence. So the two presidential candidates have been traversing the country to try and campaign, drum up support for their causes with barely a month to go for the October 25th elections. And on Sunday, Edward Lowassa, the Ukawa candidate, was here in Dar es Salaam, where he addressed 3 political rallies, including one at Kigamboni and the vote-rich Temeke area of Dar es Salaam, where he did continue to reiterate his call to work on the education sector here in Tanzania, which he has been saying that it has been not been doing very well. He has said that that has been the cause of Tanzania's problems, and he wants to work on that, to work on Tanzania's problems right from the root. And he has mentioned education as his key pillar in many of his political campaigns so far. Another thing that he did talk about, Edward Lowassa, is that he will work for Dar es Salaam. Remember, the two candidates are trying their best to the city of Dar es Salaam, which has many voters for that presidential poll. And he did say, Lowassa did promise the people of Dar es Salaam that if he gets into power, he will work on a special ministry for Dar es Salaam city to work on the problems that have been bedeviling the metropolis that is Dar es Salaam. That is, of course, that includes transport, as you can see behind me. This is a project that has been ongoing. It is a bus project, a speed bus project that the government has been trying to put in place to make sure they decongest the city. Edward Lowassa saying that he will create a special ministry for the metropolis of Dar es Salaam. On their part, Chama cha Mapinduzi CCM were in the Geita region of Tanzania, basically in Chato constituency, which is the home turf of the CCM presidential candidate John Magufuli. That is where he comes from, and of course he will be making sure that he gets the majority of the votes come October 25th when Tanzanians go to the polls. And he was addressing his people, telling them to give him maximum support so that he can ensure the support of the rest of the country. He did crack the whip on contractors and those people who have been given jobs by the government to try and develop different parts of infrastructure in Tanzania, saying that there has been a problem of contracting where contractors take too much time to deliver service to Tanzanians, saying that he will crack the whip on them if he gets into State House come October 25th. But he did say that he will not be a dictatorial president for Tanzania, contrary to what has been said by some of his political rivals. One key pillar in the opposition coalition, that is the Ukawa coalition for Edward Lowassa, has been another former Prime Minister, Frederick Sumaye, who was Prime Minister from 1995 to the year 2005, Prime Minister for a total of 10 years. We did see him defect to join the Ukawa political team, and he has been saying that this is time for the opposition in Tanzania to kick out CCM, telling CCM that they will not be enjoying the monopoly that they have been, political monopoly, over the years. So it will be an interesting 35 days to the October 25th election, and we as KTN News are here in Tanzania to traverse the different provinces of this East African nation to just give you the lowdown on what is happening in the political campaigns for especially the two horses in this presidential race. I'm Ben Kitili in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania.
That's right, our political editor Ben Kitili and Francis Ontomwa, together with a crew, are in Tanzania, and they will continue to be based there during the campaigns, through the election, and even after, getting you the whole story of that transition in Tanzania. Thanks very much for that tonight, Ben Kitili in Dar es Salaam. All right, now we want to switch gears to business news now, and among other things, talking about how camel milk is the next thing and construction. More interestingly, Abby Agina will be having the details of just what happens with the teacher strike going forward, and crunching some of those numbers that have been heavily disputed and debated throughout the day today. Abby?
We're taking a closer look at what this strike by teachers means and what it takes really to finance this particular strike. Other than that, we'll also be taking a look at some good news for tea farmers, all that coming up after the break. Good evening and welcome to KTN Business. My name is Abi Agina. We start with a look at what this teacher strike really means and what it means when it comes to financing it. It has been 4 weeks since teachers in Kenya went on strike, bringing 12th the total number of strikes that teachers have undertaken since independence. And the government has stuck to its guns, saying it cannot afford to pay teachers the 50 to 60% pay rise. So what is the way forward? Adelaide Changole tells us more on this.
The average Monday in September is normally one of frenzied revision as Class 8 and Form 4 students prepare for their final examinations. But while candidates have been gearing up for the examinations, their teachers have been missing in action for the last 4 weeks. Instead of holding chalk, teachers have been on a nationwide strike that has paralyzed the school learning system.
I hereby, as directed by the National Executive Council, declare formal commencement of a full nationwide strike.
The teachers downed their tools following a Supreme Court ruling that awarded them a pay increment of between 50 and 60%. However, the government has been resolute, arguing that the proposed increments was not tenable and would tip the wage bill past the sustainable mark.
If the award were paid to teachers, our wage bill would therefore rise from 52% to 61% of all revenues collected.
I think the annual pay to teachers is close to 179 billion. So it means by the time you go up for 60%, in nominal terms, obviously, you'd be paying teachers close to more than 200 and almost 300 billion.
Experts are, however, faulting the government for the crisis that has seen all public schools close indefinitely, saying the current strike is just evidence of what has become chronic mismanagement of the sector.
12 teacher strikes since independence. However, in the last 10 years, we've had one almost every 2 years. So in a way, it's an admission of failure that we are unable to manage our key public resource.
So what is the way out? The government says the answer could lie in higher taxes.
We would have had to raise VAT from the current 16% to 22%.
But experts have warned against any tax increment, saying it would translate to tax evasion and avoidance and yield the state little, if any, funds. Instead, they propose a review of the planned expenditure as a way to source for funds.
Perhaps the cabinet as a whole should have a sitting and go line by line through items of wastage which can be covered.
More than that, they're calling for a purge on the teachers' service to smoke out ghost workers and thereby avail more funds to teachers.
So I think now an order should come out as well for the Teachers Service Commission to purge their roles of ghost workers. Look at those numbers and actually find out we are paying 280 teachers, 1,000 teachers. Are there really 280,000 teachers?
On top of that, they want teachers to sign performance contracts that can be used to determine pay in the future in a bid to deal with quality issues that have plagued the sector. Adelaide Changole, KTN Business.
A delicate balancing act there. Of course, through the week, we'll keep our eyes on that story just to see how it continues to develop. Moving on, the cow has remained the most important farm animal in Kenya, but in arid and semi-arid areas, camels are the more favored animals to keep for their hardiness. This has slowly carved out a new enterprise for camel farmers who are racing to cash in on the demand for camel milk across the country. On this week's Next Frontier, Philip Kitani traveled to Laikipia County, where keeping camels is big money. And take a look.
On this week's episode of The Next Frontier, we come to you from Doldol, Laikipia County, and we'll be looking at camel farming and what the future of dairy camel farming holds. East Africa is home to 60% of the world's camel population, and the popularity of the camel products in Kenya, Somalia, Sudan and Ethiopia has rapidly increased in the recent years. But for camel farmers in Kenya, the hardy animals can go for days without water offer more than milk. Unlike cows and goats, camels can produce milk during the dry season and in times of drought.
Wenye wanaelewa mambo ya ngamia ni mzuri tu ajikakamua waweze kuendelea na ngamia vizuri, waitibu vizuri.
As camel milk is normally produced under low input, low output system, 5 liters a day is considered a decent yield. Lactating camels generally produce between 1,000 and 2,700 liters per lactation.
Sasa tunapata sio mingi kama wakati ya kwanza. Sasa maziwa iko chini kidogo. Maziwa sasa tunapata kama lita 10 kwa saa hii.
Despite the rising popularity of camel milk in arid and semi-arid region, camel milk processing has generally been done informally, leading to delays in milk delivery, often affecting the quality.
We are very insistent on the quality of the raw milk. We follow the standards by Kenyan law.
With the establishment of Vital Camel Milk in Nanyuki town, camel farmers in the region are steadily abandoning the practice of supplying milk to vendors, instead opting to supply to the factory that was established in 2004.
Tumefaidika sana kwa sababu pia watoto wamesoma, kwa wengi wanapata karo ya shule wanaendelea kusoma.
Camel milk is highly regarded as nutritious and believed to have medicinal values for some common ailments. It provides an alternative for those allergic to cow's milk and is 3 times richer than cow's milk in vitamin C.
Camel milk is a complete different product. And as I said, we make it as an organic health food for a special niche clientele which needs it on side for healing purpose, and on the other side people who are intolerant on cow milk but interested in milk products.
Currently, a liter of camel milk from the farm goes for 80 shillings, but after processing and packaging, the price goes up 30 shillings. Vital Camel Dairy Milk Limited currently supplies its products to Nakumatt and Chandarana supermarket. The camel milk is now more determined than ever to claim a permanent position on the shelves of the Kenyan supermarket. And with the numerous health and nutritional benefits that I've learned today, I'm going to start to having my glass of camel milk as from now. Philip Keitan for The Next Frontier.
Many thanks there, Philip Keitani. Well, the Kenya Tea Development Agency is set to announce its bonus payout for farmers on Tuesday, with anticipation that farmers are set to make a hefty return this year. Tea farmers are expecting increased earnings after the price of the commodity at the auction improved in most sales since January. A kilogram of the beverage fetched 314 shillings mid last month, the highest recorded this year. In a statement to newsrooms, KTDA says the increase in new emerging markets, the stable global tea prices, and the good harvests received this year have been some of the factors that have led to the rise in the bonuses. The agency did not, however, specify how much farmers would make this year. Total earnings for the farmers affiliated to the KTDA fell from 69.2 billion shillings in 2013 to 52.9 billion shillings in 2014, a 23% decline due to poor tea prices. The weak shilling has also helped raise demand by making the beverage relatively cheaper. Kenya exports close to 95% of its tea, making it a leading global exporter. And now to that story about construction levies. The Ministry of Lands has given the strongest indication yet that it is willing to review construction levies in a move to open up the sector. Developers currently have to deal with multiple levies ranging from county, NEMA, and even the National Construction Levy that have made it difficult for most to enter this highly lucrative and fast-growing space. Speaking during the first construction conference held at the KICC, Acting Lands CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i indicated that they were keen on facilitating investors by having a conducive environment. The CS hit out at the Construction Authority, calling on them to relax the levies. He further added that they were relooking at the building code with the prospect to revise it to allow new building technologies to be put to use. With Kenya's construction sector presently experiencing a boom, contractors reckon that the levies have made building too expensive.
To come to an end sooner, and this morning I have told the chairman of the board to have a meeting with his board together with the executive director. This is critical. We have to act in a manner that is facilitative and supportive to the construction sector, as it were.
Whereas it is the government's intention to have a 30% participation of marginalized groups, women, youth, and persons with disability, our research findings on the CS show that only 1.2% of women are involved as artisans. while close to 99% are men. Another worrying trend is that those aged between the years of 18 and 30 are not trained adequately. And this group, out of this group, only 6% have had formal training in the sector, whereas their counterparts aged over 50 years have more than 40% on training in the sector. Plumbers, electricians, and tile fixers constitute less than 1% of the skill sets, while 56% are masons. On a CS, the results of these surveys should be used to generate great policy recommendations to help close the gaps.
Startling statistics there on the skills gap the country currently has. Of course, we do hope that will be resolved moving forward. Let's take a look at how the financial markets performed today, knowing that the shilling is yet to stabilize against the dollar.
Let's go to the sports news now. With only a few days left before this year's Concours d'Elegance, a record 23 entries from outside Kenya has boosted the international standing of the CBA Africa-sponsored event, which will take place on the 27th of September at the Ngong Racecourse. The FIM-sanctioned event will see Rwanda take part in the motorcycle category for the first time. Kigali-based Matthew Wilson will ride his 2003 Yamaha VMAX around the motorcycle judging ring. 15 members of the Uganda Bikers Association will ride their massive bikes from Kampala to Nairobi to contest the classes for big street and trail motorcycles. First-time competitor Ronald Walusimbi will bring his 1974 Mercedes-Benz W114 by road to Nairobi. The Vintage Motorcycle Club of South Africa is represented by 3 impressive bikes which will pull spectators to the motorcycle enclosure. All Blacks coach Steve Hansen was unimpressed with the booing of his captain Richie McCaw by fans at Wembley when he was marched, and again after the game during sideline TV interviews. Hansen believes the booing goes a long way in showing the greatness in his team. Elsewhere, South Africa has pledged to come back better in their second group game in this year's Rugby World Cup.
5 points while England is second. Australia, Fiji and Uruguay are without a point. Samoa head Group B with 4 points, while record breakers Japan are second and South Africa lie third. New Zealand take charge of Group C with Georgia coming in second on 4 points, while Tonga has 1 point, with Namibia coming in fourth with a game in hand. Ireland head Group D with 5 points, while France are second with 4 points. Romania, Italy and Canada are without a point. The next round of matches shall be played on September 23rd.
And that is your sports news tonight on KTN Prime. All right, so I want to take a look at your feedback tonight. We had asked you whether the president should take a pay cut to aid the teachers' pay hike, and the views are in. 75% of you say yes, 25% say no. Ambrose Whiter on Twitter saying, a pay cut is a temporary solution. Today's the teachers, tomorrow we don't know who will be next. We need a permanent solution. Charles Moy says, for how long can you continue to contribute? It is not money to be invested, but to be consumed. Mwalimu Owenga, you say the president should take a pay cut if he is not ready. Let them give us a pay bill number to contribute for the teachers. Brian Obuya, President Uhuru should not take a pay cut because the MPs will not pass that bill either. We know them. Vic Macau says the president told us the truth. We cannot finance the ballooning wage bill with the teachers striking every year. Those are your views tonight. We thank you very much for your feedback. A quick reminder once again to stay with us right here on KTN News, the only channel, by the way, where you get the whole story. Don't believe what others tell you. John Alanamo will be right up next and is talking to journalists and is focusing on the Westgate crisis. What was it like reporting that? What lessons have we learned as journalists? And indeed also the effect it had on journalists. So of course we have a host of good journalists here, including Mohamed Ado from Al Jazeera. That's with John Alanamu on KTN News. Don't you forget it. We give you the whole story on 274 DSTV, GoTV channel 14, channel 94, and Zuku channel 14. My name is Yvonne Okwara Matole. Have a good night.